to take humankind on an evolutionary shift up. This is what we are talking about all month. We are seeing and experiencing already the old ways of being seem to be dying, changing. They're shifting totally out of our realm, out of what we experience. And what's happening is we are birthing, and we have the honor and privilege and responsibility to birth this new consciousness, to bring people forth in this whole new consciousness that's taking place, because the old way of doing things is not serving any longer. So we are the pioneers. We are the light bearers. We are the way showers. And sometimes that might feel a little daunting. It might be a little scary perhaps, but that's okay, because if you remember from last week, and it's a quote that I've been remembering all week as things are coming up, and I love it. If your goal does not cause you to shake in your boots, it's not big enough. So that's not, I'm not a proponent of fear by any way, but it's that stretching. Like, are we moving a little bit further outside of our comfort zone? We can't expand, we can't evolve unless we do, right? So we can do. The whole point of that fear part, it's because we don't believe that we can do all that we can do. We don't believe how much we are capable of doing, because it is beyond what we have been familiar with. And so that's the part that feels like anxiety, but maybe that anxiety can be interpreted as enthusiasm. It's that same kind of feeling in the stomach, you know, that same jittery, absolute expectancy in the stomach, but instead of anxiety, maybe it's excitement because we haven't done it before. The ego's got to change, so it might feel a little frightening. So we are here. We are here every Sunday to support each other. This is a community that supports all of us. And we're going to break down. We're here to be supported because we're breaking down the old ways of doing things. And does anyone else notice this, or is it just me? Okay, we do. Things are kind of shifting in our lives in all kinds of ways. So we're here to support each other and see that there is a new way of doing things, and it is perfect. It is absolutely perfect. There are ways of showing up in the world that will exist, not only us individually, but also collectively. Because remember, we're not in this alone. We're a unified field of oneness. And we are in this collective upward revolution around a spiral of evolution of humanity. And that is a mouthful. So that's what we've been talking about. We talked about it last week too. We're an upward revolution, okay, around a spiral of evolution, because we're always evolving. So how many of you were here last week? Very good. That's great. So to anyone that wasn't here last week, I say Happy New Year. Happy New Year. Happy New Year. And I want to take us on a little journey that we went on last week, just to recap. So if you weren't here last week, YouTube it under my name, Rev Margaret Palagye, and you can see how we did that meditation, which we are going to do again right now. And it's a little different from just a meditation, because I have to fasten it up, quicken it up, because I'm on camera. And you can't have too much dead air, do they say, David? In the business? Yes? In your business? Okay. So I've been basing a lot of this talk on a book by Stephen Covey. No, not this, anyway. Stephen Covey wrote a book called The 7 Habits for Highly Successful People. That's not the book. We're going to talk about that later. But in it, he said something that was highly effective, people, that a journey of beginning with the end in mind. So it's to begin a journey. We begin any journey, right, from this moment, in the now, but with the end in mind. And it's kind of like, in our Prosperity Plus class, we learned from Mary Marcy, talks about coming from the vision, from that vibration of the manifesting of your dreams already, and what that feels like. That's where we want to begin. That's the exciting part, because usually we dream of good things, right? We're not dreaming of things that don't serve us. I hope not. So I'm going to invite you to close your eyes and take just a couple of deep breaths. And see in your mind's eye a calendar. You know, the kind that sits on top of a desk and shows the entire month. It's usually on a 4x4 square piece of paper. And so see the month of January 2014 and tear that off. Then see and tear off February 2014. Same with March. And keep on doing that until you reach January of 2015. And leave that sheet on your calendar. You are now in January 2015. And you and all of humanity have taken one upward revolution around that evolving spiral. You have a greater awareness of who you really are. You have a greater understanding of how life really works. It's a year from now. So in a year from now, your consciousness is expanding and has expanded so much in the last year. Feel it. See it. And you are living in harmony 1 year from now with the greater good, your greater good. And if you did this meditation last week and you had that mental equivalent, which is the picture that the universal law can read, then add to that picture. Think of your desires, your manifestations for 2015. What are you feeling? What are you living? So from this perspective of 2015, take a look at your outer life. Get some images of the circumstances, your situation, the world in which you live. See yourself living the life you desire to live in the world you desire to live in. See it. Feel it. Nothing's too big, remember, for the law. Expand it. Stretch it. Get a good, vivid picture of this life. The world in 2015. January of 2015. Maybe you're experiencing some loving relationships, physical well-being, financial abundance, living a life on purpose. Who are you 1 year from now, and what are you doing? Now go inside, really deep inside, and check out your internal landscape. Notice how you feel about yourself. Take a couple of deep breaths and see your calendar pages returning to their original order. So December 2014 returns, November, October returns, all the way back to January 2014. You are back here. And so take a moment to reground yourself in this room, and you can open your eyes when you are ready. So we have added, if you were here last week, to the mental equivalent of that which we held in the same vision last week. We've expanded it even more, as we are always expanding. But we want to expand in that ever upward spiral of evolution. We want to become more. That is our inherent truth, our desire, because that is what the divine does. It expresses, it creates, it becomes more of what it is. It doesn't change what it is. You change your experience. It just keeps creating more life out of its nature. And its nature is of love, is of good. It's so wonderful to know that we have this supportive energy that we call God that has our back. That has our back, our front, our inside. It has every part of us. It supports us. And so when we step out into what we term as the unknown, we have this loving force, this energy that is guiding us and nurturing us and nourishing us and bringing us forth into a greater experience of ourselves. So this is the book that we're using for spiritual enlightenment. It's called, Andrew Cohen wrote this book. It's called Evolutionary Enlightenment. So this is the book. And in that book, Cohen sets forth 5 tenets for evolutionary enlightenment. And so today we will go over the second one. Last week we did the first one. That was clarity of intention, if you remember. So now we're moving into the second one of the Evolutionary Enlightenment book. It's what Cohen calls the power of volition. And we know that volition means choice. And personally, I would have called it the power of responsibility. Taking responsibility. It's a whole different way of looking at life, perhaps, unless you've been living in total responsibility for every single thought and emotion you've ever had in life, or are having right now. This tenet is all about taking that responsibility. And it asks us to be responsible for nothing less than the destiny of the evolutionary process, here and now as ourselves, because we know that each one of us contributes to the collective unconscious. We're all one, so you think, oh, all of humanity, I cannot change all of humanity. That's an error in thinking. Yes, you can. Yes, you can change the entire evolutionary process by connecting within and really doing that light work, what we call. Connecting with our authentic self, with that divinity within us. We change. We change circumstances around us. We change groups. We change states. We change countries. We change the planet. That's how powerful we are. So I have a story for this. This is a story about a soap manufacturer who is walking with the minister. The soap manufacturer says to the minister, you know, the truth that you teach every week hasn't helped the world very much. Look at all the hate, the illness, the poverty, and the war in the world. And as they walked, they passed some children who were playing in a park. And they were getting quite dirty. And the minister said, I see that the soap that you are making hasn't really helped the world much in cleaning up its dirt and its filth. The soap manufacturer replied, well, soap works only when you use it. To which the minister replied, yes, just like the truth that I teach. It only works if we apply it, if we use it in our lives. You can read all the books you want. You can go to all the inspirational workshops that you want. Unless you are using it, it doesn't work. That's bottom line. So that's the responsibility, personal responsibility. In religious science, which is what this is, New Thought, we teach the truth that we are each personally responsible for our own relationship with God. Only you can have that experience for yourself. There is no intermediary between us and God. So there is no priest, there is no minister, there is no mother, holy mother, there is no son to go through, there is none of that. In order to connect with God, we do it in our own consciousness. We do it within ourselves. We connect to that indwelling divine self. That's how we connect to the great I am, by going inward, always. We teach that every living being has already established a direct, personal, and intimate connection with God. It's already there. But it's our responsibility to experience it. It's there within each one of us. Are we taking the time? That's why meditation is key. That's why it's so important to do this kind of inner work. It's the only way. God does not force itself on us. But whatever and whenever, at any time, we can simply, through our desire, just through the desire, the intention, we can open ourselves up to it. It's already present. Every spiritual book on New Thought, in the affirmative vein, which is what we all read and practice here at Joyful Gathering, will tell you that it is already present. So why don't I experience it in my life? It's that personal responsibility. Set that strong intention. We did a visioning here the last week in December for this very reason, to see our greater good for 2014. 2014, that's when I said miracles are seen in 2014. And that's where I said you can put anything in front of that. You can put prosperity is seen in 2014. Love is seen. But I'll tell you, I got a little miracle book. Because I'm not big on journaling. It's a wonderful spiritual practice, but I'm not big on it. But now I got this little notebook, and I am writing down what I perceive as miracles in my life. And I love it. It's like every day I can't wait to just write it down real quick. It's not a big thing. And it feeds into that vein, that vibration of gratitude. Because you're so happy and excited and filled with gratitude when you write down. Miracles seen. Remember, there's no size in God. So it could be small, it could be large, it could be anything. What you interpret for yourself, put it in your miracle book. And so, in discussing the parable of the prodigal son, Ernest Holmes, the founder of Science of Mind, Religious Science, writes, "This is the most perfect lesson taught by the great teacher. God turns to us as we turn to God. We take one step toward God," he writes, "and God comes running to us. A more beautiful thought could not be given. As we look to God, God looks to us." Isn't that powerful? Just so life-affirming, and that's why we're here, to really deepen into these life-affirming lessons and all kinds of wonderful ways of thinking. Change your thinking, change your life. In addition to this concept, we teach the truth that we are each personally responsible for our own relationship with the whole, with all that is. We teach the truth that we are each personally responsible for our experiences and how our lives unfold. Whether you like it or not. It's the way it is. You're responsible on how stuff happens. You say that all the time. Stuff happens, but you have the choice on how you want to respond to it. That's taking the personal responsibility. So, Holmes also writes in Science of Mind, "The normal functions of life are harmonious, but we interfere with these in our ignorance, and thus bring discord into temporary being. In the life process of automatic functioning, both in our bodies and throughout the universe as a whole, the laws of being are set and immutable. While in the use that we make of the law of cause and effect, our individual experience, we are responsible. We are responsible." We teach these truths so that we can now move into, it's a word that I avoided for so many years, responsibility. So we can now we're responsible for what we're creating. with our thinking and with our feeling. That's what we're responsible for. So we do teach this as a movement for all of us to take the correct thinking, to not be an erroneous thinking, to think for our highest good. It doesn't make you, don't do the spiritual guilt thing. If stuff is showing up and you don't like it in your life and you say, oh, look what I created, it doesn't make a difference. You can recreate again in this now moment. This is the moment, the only moment that you have to create your tomorrows. You cannot create them from the past, and you can't create them from going into the future. You create them now, and that creates the future for you. So we have that responsibility. And the way that we embrace the task is first and foremost by making the spiritual effort to take responsibility for all that makes us who we are. And that means striving to come to terms with all of our past. If you remember, I think it was last week, if you're moving through hell, don't stop to build a condo. Keep on going. Sometimes we are stuck. I love that song. And I can actually remember the whole thing, which is a minor miracle. So that goes in my miracle book. But it's sometimes we hang out in the old stuff instead of like, okay, you might be in the sadness of whatever emotion is coming up, but at the same time, know that there is a loving presence within you that wants you to succeed, that wants you to be happy, that wants you to be fulfilled. And that is the truth. Andrew Cohen writes, it meaning courageously stretching to embrace all the historically accumulated complexities of your present circumstance. And so that would be our histories or her stories. It would be those stories that we tell and that we hang out in from the past. And now we're moving forward to create exciting new shifts in our lives, experiences in our lives. The evolutionary impulse which is within each and every one of us is that thing within us that wants more good, more love, more joy, more everything, more money, more wholeness, more health. It's good to want more, but coming from that place of within, that divine impulse within. Because it is letting you know that you are connecting with your authentic self. And your authentic self has no hesitation whatsoever about embracing responsibility. And I love this question that Cohen poses. This is good. How can an energy and intelligence that is powerful and audacious enough to have given rise to an entire universe have issues with responsibility? That's what is within us. That divinity, that authenticity is within us. So we can be responsible for what we create. So create the happy life. For many of us, our identity has been shaped both consciously and unconsciously by the belief that we are victims of fate, of circumstance, and of other people. So then when you get to live alone, for the first time in your whole life, and you want to blame someone else for what's going on in your life, and there's no one else there, not even a pet, nothing. You blame the plants doing great, thriving, I water them. You really realize, well, I guess it's me, it was me all along, I didn't realize it, because we have someone else to blame, so. The separate ego, that's the gift and the lesson of living alone. The separate ego, which the ego is separate, does not want to be fully accountable. It's much easier to say, well, it's this person's fault. Well, they didn't do this. Or if, there wasn't a judging God. But it tends to hide out under one excuse or another. You ever find yourself in the excuse mode? There's always a reason. Oh yeah, I'm doing it because. Abraham Maslow studied highly functioning people in the 70s, and he found that there were common denominators among the subjects who were living more fully. Among the common denominators were, they all had a vision, which is what we did. They all had a vision for their lives and were committed to their vision. And that's what we teach in that Prosperity Plus. Have that vision. We change the vision, but be committed to your vision. So the first tenet was clarity of intention. And then the other part of those highly functioning people is that they took responsibility for their choices. Highly functioning people could be another way of saying highly evolved people. And we are moving more and more and more into being those people right here, right now, as we take 100% responsibility for ourselves, for our joys, our sadnesses, our prosperity and our lack, and for our health and disease. If you dissect the word responsibility, right? Responsibility, we find it really means the ability to respond. How we choose. How are we choosing? How we choose to respond to what is in front of us in any given moment. Responsibility. You should experience something less. No, so should you experience something less than you desire. You now have an opportunity to take responsibility for yourself by asking these 3 questions. So I have 3 questions that you can ask yourself, and I'll repeat them twice. What does this teach me about myself? First question, what does this teach me about myself? Second question, what can I learn about me and the world from this situation? What can I learn about me and the world from this situation? And the third question, how can I use this to grow? How can I use this to grow? When you find the goodness and gifts in all of life's situations, even the most difficult, because I know that we go in and out of difficult experiences, but the universe guarantees more goodness. It guarantees more gifts. But again, we take that responsibility to choose wisely. So for today, some final words from Cohen on this powerful tenet of choice. If we really want, he writes, to create a different future, we have to get over ourselves. I like that, because I have said that to me. Get over yourself. After all, in the light of the fact that it was you who chose to initiate the entire evolutionary process, what are a few psychological bumps, he writes, and bruises? In the light of the fact that the process is now depending on each and every one of us to create the next step, even the deep scars of ethnic and cultural conflict are no longer valid excuses for holding back. From the biggest perspective, we really do have time to excessively dwell on the past? Do we really, I ask you, do we really have time to excessively dwell in the past? So here is our charge. We have a charge. Let 2014, let this year be a year of no more blame. Wow. No more blame. No more blaming God for what has happened. No more blaming your parents, relatives, teachers, ex-spouses, current spouses, the economy, politicians. No more blame. Let 2014 be the year we live responsibly and fully embrace our good. And when we do this, we will find ourselves spiraling upward into the ever-becoming universe of good. And because that is what the divine wants for us. So I say, join me in 2014 consciously When you forget, just bring yourself back. It's okay. I'm evolving. 2014